Top 5 best trash anime to come out of 2021. Yep, you know the gist, you know the gist of it. Gonna be talking about and continuing on what I consider to be the best trash anime to come out of 2021. As I mentioned when I made my best trash anime of 2020, these are shows that I would consider to be like either fun bad animes, hentais that are just super good, that is actually somehow memorable to a degree, or just shows that are essentially really good and maybe a lot of people didn't like at one point. But essentially, these are the best trash animes, all from 2021. And I'm going to list them all down, starting with some honorable mentions, and then going to the top 5 best. And if you want to, of course, check out the best trash animes come out of 2020, I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can check that out for yourself. But until then, here is my list of the best trash anime that I thought came out really well in 2021. Alright, so once again, Topsters, here's my list, hiding my number one spots. It's not going to be in the order that you see here, but we're going to start with some honorable mentions first and foremost. And before we go into the honorable mentions, I want to say that in my top five that I'm going to go into right now, there's going to be a little bit of like, I'm not going to be able to find them in Topsters for a reason because, again, there are some hentai, spoiler, that's going to make it. So I'm just going to show it like how it is with the tabs here to make sense. But going right to the honorable mentions, we have Kurogao ni Natakara Shinu to Shitineta, or Seduced by My Best Friend. Um, Pretty much a hentai. This was the first hentai by Alias Studios, a studio that I've talked about quite often as of late because of shows like Elf Son Workout and the Yandere Elf that came out not that long ago that I also talked about. And this was their first show. This was their first official anime. And that year when it came out, I thought it was like a pretty cool, fun, bad anime where it's about a dude and a dude basically liking each other, and the dude basically changes sex orientations based upon certain scenarios. Literally, every time they fuck, the guy changes from a guy to a girl, then a girl to a guy, and the best friend's trying to find a way to get the cure. It's crazy. It's stupid. That's pretty much the gist of it in the hentai plot. Next on my honorable mentions would be Toeno Hanako-san versus Kokyo Taimashi, um, which is essentially taking like if you know like the Hanako-san Japanese lore backstory. It's essentially about how we have this dude here. I don't know if you can see, but Kongo Mazuro, who essentially is like the this priest who's going to flood out all the demons that's plaguing this school. And how does he do it? He does it by using his magic stick to essentially pure all the demons of all the nastiness. It's a stupid hentai, and that's what I'll say about that. I'll also say about that with our next honorable mention with Bitch Na Inane Sama, which don't let the title fool you. This is literally what the title is in the hentai. And I will say that if you want go into watching this hentai thinking that it's like another dumb slice of life cliche hentai, you'll be dead wrong. This one is just like super weird. This to me is like Queen Bee's masterpiece of like a really good fun bad hentai. And keep in mind, Queen Bee in the hentai community is pretty infamous for making some of the worst dog shit hentai to come out of recent memory with its PowerPoint slide animation. But for some reason, I felt that out of all the hentais they came out with, this one I think is like a near masterpiece of fun, bad, trashy anime. I don't know what it is about it that makes me want that always makes me go back to this every now and then, but you have to believe when I say that the animation and the drawings, the fucking drawings in this hentai is so weird and outlandish that you have to see it to believe it for yourself. Next honorable mention is Ichirare Fukushu Simon, or in English is Bullied Revenge Hypnosis, which is pretty much a hentai about a dude who gets bullied by three schoolgirls and he takes his revenge by the most cliche hentai plot imaginable, which is hypnotizing his enemies and make him do all the dirty work that you would typically expect from a hentai. And finally, to wrap up my best trash anime honorable mentions, it would be Mother of the Goddess Dormitory. I still remember this show pretty vividly to this day when it came out. This was actually pretty close to being in the top five when I was looking back on my list, but then the more I thought about it, the more it's like, this is a show that kind of is forgotten in memory, unfortunately. but it is still a pretty strong release per se, where it's about a dude who moves into this dormitory full of busty, beautiful, sexy girls, and his the whole point is to essentially have him do chores while also helping girls out in weird, crazy scenarios one way or another. And it's hilarious, it's stupid, and it's trying to play the fan service card so much to the point where it's like, it's passable, it's fine, and but it is at the time when I looked at it the best trash anime of that year. But anyway, now we're on to the top five slots, and I'm going to start with this first at the number five spot with a show that is so controversial, so I don't even know how to describe it, but I'm just gonna type it out myself, and you'll know what I mean. Yeah, this show. Look, I know there is a lot of hate, a lot of backlash going towards this being redo of Healer. It should not be in any top five or any list at all. But you have to understand that in 2021, Redo of a Healer is a show that when it first came out, this was this was panned towards a mainstream anime audience. This was at streaming platforms. This was at every anime website out there. And because of so much of the negative backlash that happened from the first episode, literally the first episode alone, um, it was obviously taken out by numerous streaming services, streaming platforms, and it literally was bashed to the shower realm, never to be seen unless you go to like a hentai website ever again. And believe me, I did watch all 12 episodes of Redo of the Healer, and what more can be said about Redo of the Healer that has been said already? This is one of the most controversial shows to come out of recent memory. The fact that this thing still has withstand the test of time, and I haven't seen a show since then pull the biggest risk of just trying to be like all in your face with the most fucked up degenerate shit out there is crazy. And once more, I want to preface this pretty clearly is that prior to Redo of Hero coming out, if you even remember from my best trash anime of 2020, you remember that Ishizoku reviewers came out that following year. And Ishizoku Reviewers was so controversial that it took 3 episodes for it to be taken off of streaming platforms. Redo of a Healer took 1 episode for them to be like, okay, nope, we have to take this off of streaming platforms. No shot. This is super bad. What the fuck were we thinking? But at the same time, there's a lot of trashy aspects of it that make it super iconic, super memorable at this point. And honestly, I haven't found a show since Redo of the Healer that hit the same caliber of holy shit, what the fuck did I just watch ever since then. Because again, while Redo of the Healer is indeed a controversial show, I think that this is justifiable in it being in my best trash anime of 2021. Like between this and Ishizoku reviewers, it's a tough call to choose what would be the better controversial anime to come out of within these 2 years in between each other. And I'll leave it at that. But Redo of a Healer at the number five spot. Pretty controversial, but hey, take it with a grain of salt. At number four, of course, is a show that was popping off when it first came out, and as Higehiro, or After Being Rejected, I Shaved and Took into High School Runaway. Now I'm pretty sure none of you will remember the poster if you see it on Topsters, but Higehiro was a pretty infamous show that came out that year by Project Number 9 Studios. And this show is essentially about how it's a high school runaway who ran away from her home, met bumped across a salaryman, and essentially started to live there and do all these random slice of life things to like make sure the plot keeps going. From I can't even say the word on video because it might get demonetized or some shit. But from the amount of times that we get close to like some really fucked up shit to a lot of like questionable scenes that make you question like what is the relationship between our two main characters to a lot of really a lot of crazy plot synopsis that really makes you like hooked on the show. This show really was the trashiest anime to come out at the time, and I don't say that lightly, considering that Higehiro unfortunately would then inspire a real life Japanese crime that took place within that year. And believe me, you can do the research yourself, but this show somehow inspired a real life crime to occur where an actual guy took an actual high school runaway and kept them all to himself in his apartment. And it's so weird, it's so fucked up. So again, while the subject matter is definitely super divisive when you go into this anime, I there are some good things to at least talk about, I suppose. Where again, the animation is as crisp and clean as Project Number Nine Studios would expect. The story actually, weirdly enough, is like super interesting all the way through, up until the last 2 3 episodes. That of course, where it felt a little bit of a lackluster moment where the main girl was confronting the mother that she ran away from, and it just ends like in the most nonchalant way possible. Where it all starts back at the beginning where they first met. It's okay, it's fine, I guess. But Higehiro, undoubtedly, when this came out in 2021, this was the trashiest anime to come out that year, and I've not seen people like talked about this show nonstop when it came out ever since. And I'll leave it at that. At our number three spot, this is where unfortunately I cannot pop it up because it's just won't pop up on Topsters. But at our number three spot is my god, I can't even delete for some reason. Um, at our number three spot, we have Imaizumen. More specifically, yeah, see, Imaizumen brings all the Gairus to his house. So bear with me as this would be the number three spot for Imaizumen, so just keep that in mind. But Imaizumen brings all the Gairus to his house. Yep, I mean, you can see it, you can weep it. This is a 10 out of 10 recommendation of a hentai. And you have to understand that at the time, they only dropped 2 episodes of Imaizumi, and prior to it, I think I gave this thing like an 8 out of 10. But as the show kept on dropping like another episode and another episode each year past that 2021 release, Imaizumin is still, if not, one of the best wholesome hentais you're ever going to watch and experience. And I think I don't even have to talk about like what the show's all about because this is like the most popular. And if I'm not mistaken, it is actually the highest rated hentai on my anime list as of me recording this video. Like if I just click on hentai in the genre and sort it out by the score overall, yeah, Imaizumin is at the number one spot of the highest rated hentai out there on my anime list right now. And it's no surprise to why, because again, this hentai is something special, it's unique. I feel like this is like something that could really get people to like watch and really love and adore. And while this wouldn't be like my recommended hentai for anyone that wants to get into like some fun, bad, trashy hentai, this is like surprisingly one of the most wholesome hentais you're ever going to experience. And the fact that there's that the doujin itself is still ongoing into this day is also a pretty big testament to like why Imaizumen is a really good hentai that's stood pretty well back in 2021. All right, but we now move on to our number two spot. And number two spot, once again, a little bit cheating here and there, but bear with me as number two spot is not Kaguya-sama Loves War, but more specifically, Kaguya-sama Loves War, the OVA. Yes, this is a 1 episode show that is essentially like a little bit of a pre-tense before that happens in between season 2 going into season 3 if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, the Kaguya-sama Loves War OVA is just showing all the degeneracy that you would not see from the actual Kaguya-sama TV show. And look, I'm a sucker for Kaguya-sama, and I'm gonna say right here, right now, that yes, for it being high up on my list, it is deserving of it to be at the number two spot because, again, it's just as typical and as formatic as it would be if you know how Kaguya-sama works up until this point. And for anyone that's a huge Chika fan, for anyone that's a huge Miko and Kaguya fan, you're gonna see a lot of busty hips and fan service galore that are going to be loving all the way to the end. And while there's only one OVA of this franchise as a whole, it would be interesting to see if Kaguya-sama in the future drop more OVAs like this, because this one was like a really fun show, and this was a fun episode, and that's all I'll say about that. Whew, but of course, this couldn't make it at the number one spot. Like, we have a lot of good hitters that actually could have made it to number one for reasons that would make sense. But Number one is a show that I've actually preached for so many years now, and for me, is the gold standard of how to make the best fun, bad, trashy anime possible, while simultaneously being like, what the hell did I just watch experience? Like, if you remember my huge rant about Honey Lemon Soda and other trashy shows that I've talked about up until this point, there is one show that I've always referenced many times, though, prior to me starting making YouTube, that I've referenced a lot and I praise the hell out of. And that is this show. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Uh, Damn. I don't know, man. I don't know if they're gonna have it here, but let's see. Oh my god, yep. The hidden dungeon only I can enter. Yep, this is my number one spot for the best trash anime of 2021, and I still stand by it to this day. This show is a masterpiece of what to do when you're making a fun, bad, trashy anime. I remember when this came out, this received like a bit of a mixed reception, but I saw the beauty behind the mess. You see, this show has everything you want in like a fantasy esque kind of anime, where it's about a dude who essentially is at the lowest garbage tier level, but one day his powers awaken through a bit of fate, mind you, and he essentially is able to level up based upon the doing sexual innuendo gestures, from licking people in the weirdest way possible to um, doing like the weirdest sexual poses imaginable, to interacting and fighting against other girls and colleagues and gaining their powers. It's weird, it's stupid, and it keeps it going to the very fucking end. And this was a show that made me super pay attention to Okaru Noboru Studios, which, as I've mentioned, is a studio that I've talked about many times in the past, thanks to shows like Tomodachi Games, Viral Hit, even like shows that I'm not crazy about right now. But either way, this was the first show that got me like, whoa, I need to pay attention to this studio because they were cooking something. They cooked something with Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Enter, and this was like a masterpiece of a fun bad anime. And I just can't think of any other show that can replicate what this show is doing, but better when it came out. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Hidden Dungeon, Only I Can Enter, number one on my best trash anime of 2021. And yeah, see the list, seep it, weep it. Again, number three would have been Imai Zoom In, but they wouldn't be able to pop it up here. And yeah, just wanted to talk about the best trash anime of 2021. And I'll see you all when I drop the final video regarding the best animes of 2021. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Later.